we're live. This time we're actually live. Today is April 7th on a Friday. Don't really plan on doing these on Fridays actually because work, but I'm not working this morning. So let's just do this thing where I talk to a camera about cool sports stuff. But today got a pretty decent show lined up, I say. I spun the random NFL team wheel. Going to talk about that team and if they've gotten better or their situations, yada yada. You'll see who that is in like 5 seconds. Actually, it's in the title. Some cool hockey stuff's happened. Basketball is kind of boring right now considering it's the end of the season and like 3 games matter. But without further ado, let's just get into the NFL talk. That team that I randomly spun was another team in cap hell. I had the Saints on Wednesday, got Tampa today. And what I've usually done with this NFL segment is, did they get better or something like that? But Tampa was really in no position to get better. They were in no position to take the next step. And that kind of confused me for a second because I was like, well, what do I make this about Tampa? And I decided, did Tampa Bay achieve their goals? That's what I landed on. And those 3 goals, in my opinion, had to have been to get under the cap because they were $60 million over like a week before the league new year. Sign a bridge QB because you're at pick 19. You're not really going to get the QB that you want. And get younger because they were the second oldest team in football last season. So those were the 3 goals. And let's talk about it, starting off with getting under the cap. Obviously, they did it. Every team does it. It's not like a crazy thing. But Tampa Bay did get under the cap after being nearly $60 million over. And there's no other way to put it besides this team is in cap hell. Tom Brady retiring left the team with a $35 million cap hit. And that's pretty shitty. But, they restructured a lot of contracts. They cut left tackle Donovan Smith to get under the cap. And, in those restructurings, they added 9 total void years across, I want to say, 6 contracts. 3 of the contracts being 1 void year added and 2 of them being 3 years added. So let's talk about those void cap numbers because I don't really understand this, but I think it's fascinating. The whole void cap number, the whole void cap hits, the void cap years. I think it's fascinating, though, because every team was doing it. And now we're beginning to see the effects. We're beginning to see teams do it and fail. Tampa Bay being one of those teams last year, being 8-9. But let's talk about it. On March 8th, I went through every team and wrote down all of their total void cap hits in 2024 and 2025. I did that. Yeah, on March 8th. And then I wanted to do that then because the restructuring wave hadn't really started yet, and I wanted to compare the numbers from before the restructuring wave to after it. And I got some pretty cool results with Tampa Bay. So, in 2024, they were allocated to pay $31.3 million to strictly void cap hits. They were not going to have these guys. Just $31 million of their cap was going to void cap. And in 2025, that number was at $42.85 million. Excuse me. I had to find it real quick. And through the restructures, they got that 2024 cap hit number down to $19 million. So from 31 to $19 million, that sounds great, but that $12 million just doesn't disappear. It has to be spread out. So in 2025, their void cap number went up from $42.85 million to $58.62 million. Meaning $58.62 million of their 2025 salary cap. Currently, now of course there's 2 years, that number's going to change. Currently, that number is set at $58 million. Tampa's in cap hell. Tampa is not in a good spot, but they have to do it to get under the cap. And are you going to trade these guys? Are you going to trade Vita Vea? Are you going to trade Mike Evans? Those are guys that are homegrown, that you have drafted. It's a tough thing to have to deal with when you have no cap space, no high draft pick, and no quarterback. It's a shitty thing to deal with. So I think this season they were really in no position to trade any of their homegrown guys like I think the Saints were. they were really in no position to do so. Just kind of get under the cap and pray for the best. Looking at the sign a bridge quarterback goal, they landed on Baker Mayfield on, I believe, a 1-year, $4 million contract. Obviously, that's like the worst of the bunch. And this kind of led me to two things. Because I don't know if Tampa went after Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if they went after those guys. Because when you look at a bridge quarterback, the Saints signed Derek Carr for 4 years. That's not really a bridge QB. You're looking to win football games with him. Jimmy G signed with the Raiders for 3 years. That's not really a bridge quarterback. They're looking to make a run with Jimmy Garoppolo. Saints looking to make a run with Derek Carr. Now, was Tampa looking to make a run with one of those two guys? I'm not sure. I'm not in Tampa Bay's building. But eventually they signed Baker Mayfield to a 1-year contract. So it's a 1-year bridge. They're looking to get their franchise guy hopefully next season, because Will Levis and Anthony Richardson aren't going to fall to them at pick 19 unless they love Hendon Hooker. Then, hey, if that's the case, go for it. But this was the best option on the board, as sad as that sounds. They didn't have enough money. And actually, no, going back to my point, I think that means this is a 1-year bridge, meaning obviously players aren't going to tank next season, but management's saying, hey, we want to be bad next year. Like, obviously, they're not telling the players that. But, like, management's mentality is, hey, let's tank, get a high draft pick next year, and hopefully land a Caleb Williams or whoever else is in next year's draft class. I think that's what that 1-year contract told me, while the Saints and Raiders signing their new quarterbacks to 4- and 3-year deals are saying, hey, we want to win. Tampa saying, hell, we struck out. Let's just give up and get the best option, which is sadly Baker Mayfield, which he was the best option for a 1-year contract. So did they achieve their goal of signing a bridge quarterback? If you're going to be bad next year, they did it. And looking at the third goal, to get younger, I already mentioned Tampa was the second oldest team last season. And the way to get younger when you have no money is through the draft. And Tampa luckily has 9 draft picks, 3 of those being top 100s. They have their own picks rounds 1 through 3 and 2 5ths, 2 6ths, and 2 7ths. Tampa's been pretty good at drafting their own homegrown guys. They've had some duds the last 2 years, but Vita Vea, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they've been able to draft their guys. And they got to hope to do it this year, because this is the year to hit on a draft pick. In recent drafts, they have not been afraid to make draft day moves. Do I think that changes? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to trade down and just acquire draft picks, try to get as many young guys as possible. But I think it'd be best if instead they just went best player available at pick 19, or an offensive tackle, considering they cut Donovan Smith and their running game was horrendous last season. They had no rushing game and a 45-year-old quarterback. No disrespect to Tom Brady, but that's not an offense that's going to succeed. And it showed. They went 8-9. So there are 3 goals. Get under the cap. They successfully did that. Their void cap numbers are... That was a little rough when I was talking about that. I didn't have the numbers in front of me. That was a little rough. But yeah, they are in cap hell. They got under the cap, but they're still in cap hell. When it comes to signing a bridge quarterback, they got the best 1-year guy on the board. It's Baker Mayfield, so you're not going to win that many games, but maybe that's the point. Just be a bridge QB for 1 year, then we're going to hope to draft Caleb Williams. For Baker, this is perfect. You're stepping into a starting role, hoping to be the franchise guy. This is Baker's time. Will they win? No, but this is his time. And when it comes to get younger, they have 9 draft picks. They're going to do that. So, that's it for the Tampa. That was a little rough. Around the edges, kind of talking about that for the first time. It's going to be rough around the edges, but I hope you got the gist there. Moving forward to the NHL talk, because nothing's happening in the NFL. I'm like, the ESPN shows are only talking about Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, like new stuff's happening. It's kind of fucking annoying. But moving on to hockey talk, because a lot of cool stuff happened yesterday, with the biggest game of the night, in my biased opinion as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, being the Boston versus Toronto matchup. The top 2 teams in the Atlantic faced off for the 4th time last night, with Boston winning 2-1 in overtime. And they notched their 61st win of the year, and David Pastrnak scored the OT winner, getting his 57th goal this season as the Bruins won the season series 3-1. That was rough. There's a lot of information up here, and I don't know how to format it live. It's kind of rough. But yeah, looking at this game, both of the goaltenders in net and Jacob Swayman, the Bruins' second goalie behind Linus Ullmark, played fucking phenomenal. He had a .969 save percentage, and Samsonov had a .939 save percentage last night. Both played great, as the Leafs are up 1-0 for a majority of this. Actually, not a majority, but for basically an entire period. But Brandon Carlo had a phenomenal assist, snatching the puck. He literally, boom, Deontay Johnson did that week 1 last season. Snatched the puck, kept it in the blue line by an inch, and then fed the one-timers, tying the game up at 1-1. And when it came to overtime, the Leafs got a penalty. So when you're down 4-3, when the Bruins have 4 guys and you got 3 guys, odds are you're getting scored on. I know it's not listed as a power play goal for David Pastrnak, but the power play period literally ended a second before Pastrnak netted the goal. So it was essentially a power play goal. The Leafs had a good chance to win this one, though, because they dominated the high danger scoring chances in the third. According to naturalstattrick.com, that's like an advanced hockey stat site where I pretend like I know what I'm talking about, but they kind of confirm it, saying that Toronto had 5 high danger scoring chances in the third, as Boston only had 1. The Leafs had a chance to get it done. Boston's goaltending proves too much once again, as they're looking to break NHL records. Pretty damn close, as I think they have 3 games left, something like that. Moving forward, something that's become an every show thing because it keeps being good is the Eastern Conference wild card race. They all played last night, and they all won last night in pretty dominating fashion, starting off with Florida beating Ottawa 7-2. In the last show, I talked about their goaltender right now, Alex Lyon, playing out of his mind. He continued to play out of his mind because as you can see, final score 7-2. You would think Florida outshot Ottawa by a mile, but it was the other way around. Ottawa outshot Florida 58-30, and also in the high danger scoring chances, where I pretend like I know what I'm talking about for a second. Ottawa had 18 high danger scoring chances. Florida had 3. That says a lot about Ottawa's goaltending, but it says even more about Florida's goaltending, as he had a career-high 56 saves as Florida hits a 5-game winning streak, remaining in that number 1 spot. New York stays in that number 2 spot, beating the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-1. Tampa, a little concerning. They played back-to-back since my last show. They gave up 6 goals to the Rangers. Yeah, they gave up 6 goals to the Rangers and 6 goals to the Islanders. A little concerning, but Vasi was not in net last night. They had their second goaltender, Brian Elliott, who is having a down year. Yeah, the Islanders stay in that second spot with 6 different goal scorers throughout this contest. And they needed it because Pittsburgh also got a massive win over Minnesota 4-1, as they keep up their win-loss streak alive, now reaching, I want to say, 9 games. So are they going to break the trend? I want to say Saturday. I didn't write down what teams these guys play next, which that's kind of a bummer because I like knowing that. But yeah, I want to say they play Saturday. And if they do, odds are, considering the trend of win-loss for the last 8-9 games, they'll probably lose. But yeah, Tristan Jarry, the goaltender for Pittsburgh, had a nice .964 bounce-back game. That was his save percentage, of course. After 2 duds versus New Jersey and Boston, he was able to have a nice bounce-back. And looking at it from Minnesota's perspective, they have now lost 3 in a row and are 2 points behind Colorado and Dallas. And also going back to Tampa for a second, I want to say Toronto clinched that home ice advantage over Tampa with them losing and Toronto getting a point. I want to say Toronto clinched that 2 seed in the Atlantic, as obviously Boston clinched the 1 seed like a month into the season because they're playing out of their fucking minds. Staying with this though for a second, I know this team is not on the graphic, and they haven't been for some time. It's the Buffalo Sabres. I kind of counted them out by the sheer stat of just looking at their points. I want to say Florida's at 89, New York's at 89, and Pittsburgh's at 88 now. Buffalo's at like 83. And yeah, like you look at that and you go, yeah, they're out of it. That's what I said. But little did I know, Buffalo's played 2 less games than all the teams that you currently see on this graphic. Florida, New York, and Pittsburgh. Buffalo can continue. If Buffalo continues to win, they're in it. They are in the thick of it with these 3 teams. Yeah, they would be 1 point behind Pittsburgh, and it's a massive bummer for the Sabres that all 3 of these teams won. But Buffalo got a massive 7-6 win in the shootout last night versus the Red Wings, as Buffalo swept the season series 4-0. The Red Wings are also officially eliminated from the Eastern Conference wildcard race. We all knew that was a thing, but yeah, Buffalo 2 more games remaining than all 3 of these teams. If they get wins in those 2 games, they're in the thick of it with these 3 right here. Look out for them. Moving forward, Nashville versus Carolina last night was a hockey game. Nashville, I didn't put this on the thing. I should have. Nashville ended up winning 3-0, shutting out Carolina, as Nashville goes on they're in the middle of a pretty rough stretch right now as they're trying their hardest to get into the wild card race. I want to say they're 1 point behind Calgary and Winnipeg right now. But, yeah. Juuse Saros, got that pronunciation right, for the Predators, had a phenomenal shutout after giving up 5 goals to Dallas his last start. So that was a great bounce back game for him. But looking at this from Carolina's perspective, why do I say they're in risk? This was their second shutout in their last 6 games, and meaning Carolina is only 1 point ahead of New Jersey in the Metropolitan Division and is in risk of losing that 1st seed. If it happens, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but then I looked at it. Then I actually looked at it. It is kind of a big deal because the difference between being the 1st or 2nd seed in this playoff race is, if you're the 1st seed, you're playing one of those Eastern Conference contenders, like the Eastern Conference wild card contenders, one of Florida, New York, or Pittsburgh. Whoever gets that first wild card spot, Carolina would be playing. But if they drop down to that 2nd seed, you'd be playing the Rangers. Rangers are pretty damn good. They just beat they just lost last night, but they just beat Tampa 6-3 other night before that. That didn't help my case. But yeah, the Rangers they're pretty nestled into that 3rd seed in the Metropolitan, and I would much rather play one of Florida, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, or the Islanders over the Rangers. So Carolina's got to string off some wins here, because if Carolina keeps on falling and the Devils keep on winning, because they won 8-1 last night. They won 8-1. Got to look into the camera for that one. 8-1. That's wild. And Carolina is in risk of having to play the Rangers, and if they go into the playoffs a little bit cold, that's not good. Going back to Nashville, as they stay alive, I previously mentioned they're in the middle of a tough stretch. They have 4 games remaining, and their last 2 games, they're on a 2-game winning streak, now beating Vegas and now Carolina. They're in a rough last 4 games, as they got Calgary, which they need to win because Calgary is ahead of them in the wild card standings. Winnipeg, the exact same deal. They're ahead of them in the wild card standings. Minnesota's pretty damn good. And Colorado's even better. Those are their last 4 games this season. Nashville, to get into the playoffs, Nashville is technically in the playoffs right now. They need to win to stay alive. This is technically their playoffs. They're 2-0 right now. They got 4 more rough ones. And I don't know if Juuse Saros is going to keep it up. Actually, I just saw this on Instagram. According to MoneyPuck.com, which is another one of those NHL advanced stats things that I don't understand, but I'll pretend like I do. Yusei Saros following his shutout is now number one in goals saved above expected. So that's something. I don't think that's nothing. I don't really know what that means, but that means he's pretty good. So shout out old Yusei for doing that. But yeah, moving forward, the NHL stuff is about wrapped up. Looking at some NHL cool stuff, because some cool stuff happened last night with 3 players I believe the NHL should be marketing a whole lot more. 3 young stars. First of them being Dallas Stars' own, Jason Richardson, scoring twice last night, reaching 45 goals on the year. Another young star to reach 45 goals this year was Buffalo's own Tage Thompson, netting the first of 7 goals versus the Detroit Red Wings. And Jack Hughes of the New Jersey Devils, former number 1 overall pick, got 2 goals last night, hitting 42 on the season, and is 5 points away from 100 points on the year with 3 games remaining. I would like to say, with the Devils winning 8-1, obviously Jack Hughes getting 2 of those, they just abused the 2 goalies that Columbus trotted out there. I don't know when it was, but I looked at the box score while the game was still going on. This was sometime in the 3rd period because they had switched goalies. The Blue Jackets' second goalie in 6 shots on net led up 3 goals. So whoever that guy is, you're losing your job to Jet Greaves, because if they put in Jet Greaves, story would have been different. That's all I'm saying. Moving forward, speaking of the Columbus Blue Jackets and what they're trying to do, they're trying to get Connor Bedard. They're trying to get the man himself, Connor Bedard, who played on Wednesday night in Game 4 as the Regina Pats. As you can see there, I put R blowing it. They were up 2-0 in the series. Now the series is tied 2-2-2. 2-2-2. But, Connor Bedard scored 2 goals in the Game 4 4-3 loss. He scored 2 of the 3 goals. Game 5 is tonight. And in the teams looking to get Connor Bedard, some of those teams played last night, and they all lost. Chicago got shut out by Vancouver 3-0. Columbus, as mentioned a billion times by now, has lost 8-1 last night. San Jose lost 6-2 to the Avalanche with a Mikko Rantanen hat trick. I should have put this in the NHL cool stuff. Mikko Rantanen reached 50 goals on the year getting that hat trick. And Arizona lost 4-2 to the Seattle Kraken, who actually have a chance to jump the Kings in the Pacific Division. It is highly unlikely, but there's a chance for them, and that's kind of cool. The current number 1 pick odds, I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but number 1 is the Anaheim Ducks, 2 is the Blue Jackets, 3 is Chicago, 4 is San Jose, and 5 is Arizona. They're all looking for this guy on the Regina Pats. Will it work? Will it not? We'll find out in the lottery. I don't know what day that is. But yeah, that's hockey talk. That was my hockey talk. That was a lot better than the NFL talk. The NFL talk was rough. I need to refine that and make a video from it. That'd be a good video if I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. But moving on to some NBA stuff as the show is coming to an end. NBA standing altering games are on tonight. As we're at the end of the season, so only 2 games matter. A lot of guys are sitting out because, their seasons are either over or they're just waiting until the playoffs, but only a few games matter. Going back to what I talked about on Wednesday, seeds 5 through 8 in the Western Conference remain mostly the same. The Clippers jumped the Warriors and now have the 5 seed. But the Clippers and Warriors are both tied at 10 games back. And the Pelicans beat the Grizzlies on Wednesday night, I want to say that was, as the Lakers and Pelicans are currently tied at 11 games behind, but the Lakers hold the 7 seed because both LA teams have the tiebreakers. And the Clippers beat the Lakers for the 80th time in 3 years. It's it's kind of pathetic. But yeah, looking towards tonight's and the potential standings altering games, a few of them matter, a few of them don't. But one of the biggest ones is the Warriors versus the Kings, with Kings power forward Domantas Sabonis doubtful for tonight, as the Warriors, because the Clippers don't play tonight, so the Warriors are looking to take back that 5 seed. Lakers are playing the Phoenix Suns also at 10:30 on NBA TV tonight, but they're playing a Suns team that's on a 7-game winning streak, and LeBron, Anthony Davis, and D'Angelo Russell are all doubtful because I guess they need rest while trying to get out of the play-in, you know? You could get more rest if you get out of the play-in, but can't play tonight, I guess. I'm a Lakers fan. That's just dumb. We need rest tonight. Like, dude, win. Try to get out of the play-in. You just got your ass beat by the Clippers. I could go on about that for some time. Yeah, looking at the team that's tied with the Lakers, the Pelicans play the Knicks tonight with the New York Knicks point guard Jalen Brunson out and R.J. Barrett doubtful. So the Pelicans looking to get a big win tonight, as it looks like the Lakers are going to lose with their main 3 guys out because I guess they need rest. But yeah, I'm being a dick. Looking further down in the Western Conference, the 11th seed Dallas Mavericks, I believe, have a chance to take over the 10th spot with the Thunder not playing tonight. The Mavericks are playing the Bulls in hopes of taking over the 10th seed. I don't know if they do if they win, admittedly, but I know they get closer regardless. And that's all the Western Conference stuff. In the East, the standings are pretty much set. I mean, the season ends on Sunday afternoon. The standings are pretty much set, but the only main impactful change that can happen is Brooklyn with the 6th seed and Miami with the 7th seed. Why that matters, of course, is because if you are the 7th seed, you're still in the play-in tournament. If you are the 6th seed, you are not. As both of those teams play tonight, Brooklyn plays Orlando, and Miami is on a back-to-back versus Washington. I know Orlando's not playing their guys, and Brooklyn obviously is, so they're already going to win the game. Now Orlando's just not playing their only good players. And Miami is playing a back-to-back versus Washington. Washington's best player right now that's playing is like Daniel Gafford. So odds are they'll win. We'll see what happens there. That'd be kind of wild if they lost. That would be a very Miami Heat thing this year, to lose to Daniel Gafford. No disrespect to Daniel Gafford, but that would be a very Miami Heat thing. Another big matchup tonight is Houston versus Charlotte in the Victor Wembanyama game. Speaking of the man himself, Victor Wembanyama, I said last show that he played on Wednesday night. He just didn't. I don't know where I got that from, but he just didn't. So yeah, I put that nothing has happened. But he does play today. He might be playing right now because, the team he plays for, the league he plays for, is in France. I don't know how that time zone works. They might be playing right now. But the top 6 lottery odds are set. Oh yeah, Victor Wembanyama, the last time he played Strasbourg, which was a few months back, he put up 26 points, 18 rebounds, and 3 blocks. So looking for a massive bounce back game, as the last time we saw him play, he only put up 8 points. So looking for a big bounce back, as he's like 7'5" or something wild like that. But looking at the teams that are tanking for the massive guy. I didn't know this until like today, but it's pretty much set. Like the seeding for him is pretty much set. The top 3 is Detroit, San Antonio, and Houston, and the 4th Okay, so how the NBA lottery works, if you do not know, those teams are all tied at a 14% chance to get the number 1 pick, as the 4th, 5th, and 6th best odds go Charlotte, Portland, and Washington. Those teams are locked in. The top 6 is locked into where they're at. As it's been pretty grueling seasons for all 6 of them. Some have been disappointing, some have been right on track. Just like Detroit, who is now I don't think they have a shot to hit 20 wins this year. So it's been right on point as they try to get their guys. But that's the show. We've done the full roundabout. That is the show. Looking back at it, the Tampa segment was rough. I really should refine that because I think there's something there. Because, assuming they're tanking too, not for Victor. That's funny. But, Tampa, that was a rough segment. I gotta I gotta refine the whole void cap thing because I don't fully get it, but there is something there that I think I should talk about because you don't really see people talking about that. You just see people on TV saying, "Why haven't the Jets traded for Rodgers for like a month straight?" And where's Lamar Jackson gonna go? It's like I feel like we could have knocked this out the first time, but yeah, I can also rant about that for some time. But yeah, the NHL, pretty cool shit happened last night. The NBA is kind of boring considering it's the end of the year. But yeah, Friday shows won't be happening the next 2 weeks as I believe I have work. But it should be back Monday and Wednesdays per usual. Don't really have a set time. I should probably do that. But it's roughly 11:30, noon. That's when I get it done and I just kind of turn on the camera and start talking.